It's a show with a female lead trying to make important points about being a woman in today's society. Yet our main character is reduced to twerking and gratuitous butt shots for cheap laughs. Hey y'all, Snarky J Cosplay here. As it stands, we are now 1/3 of the way through She-Hulk Attorney at Law's 9-episode run, and I gotta tell you, each week I'm more and more excited for it to end. Everything in this show so far, from dialogue to plot points and events that happen within the series, just feels silly and contrived. Everything wraps up way too easily, which gives it more of a sitcom format rather than a courtroom comedy worth following from week to week. Burdened with all the issues that have been consistent over the past 3 episodes, humor that just isn't funny, and pointless wildcard cameos, I have to rate this episode another 3 out of 10. That's all I can say without giving too much away. Now, let's get into it. From this point on, there will be spoilers for episode 3 of She-Hulk Attorney at Law. You've been warned. We start off following Jen as she heads to meet with Emil Blonsky at the high-security facility he previously escaped from. While Jen is justifiably upset about the fact that his escape is definitely going to put a damper on her parole case, Emil explains that he did not leave of his own volition. He was forced, and in fact it was his decision to come back and finish the rest of his sentence. He claims he was broken out against his will by Wong, who is now Sorcerer Supreme. So, on her drive back to the office, Jen calls up her paralegal and they start discussing how to get a hold of Wong. It's here that Jen has a tongue-in-cheek fourth wall break where she reminds the audience that this is not a cameo every week type of show, except it is, and she hopes to remind us whose show this really is. If only she'd been blessed with better writers, then I would be happy that this is her show. Instead, I'm just kind of watching on the edge of my seat, waiting for Charlie Cox to show up and praying that Disney has not ruined Daredevil as well. We're treated to a selection of news outlets talking about Jen and her recent skyrocketing into the public eye, with several instances of random men within the universe complaining about there being too many female superheroes. Now, I actually felt that this could be really relevant, because within a lot of reviews and complaints about this show, I think the whole "there's too many female superheroes" argument is tired and actually incorrect. However, from my personal research, most of the people complaining about this show are not complaining because they don't want to see a big green female superhero lead. As a woman who loves comics, there's nothing I want more than a powerful, well-written female lead to finally take her place among the dozens of films starring male heroes. However, I, and most of the people complaining about this show, just feel that it's not good TV. It's not funny, it's not entertaining, it's not well written. We're really not complaining about the fact that the lead is a female. Anyways, back at the office, Jen's sleazy former coworker, Dennis, is once again there, and he's got a case. Despite his statement that he can't speak to a 10 about embarrassing man stuff, it's revealed that he's been defrauded by a shape-shifting ex who pretended to be none other than Megan Thee Stallion for some reason. We're momentarily spared the rest of this inane conversation because Wong appears. He explains that he broke Emil/Abomination out of prison in order to fight him as part of his training to become Sorcerer Supreme, which sounds very much not Sorcerer Supreme-like. In this scene, there's a cheeky little nod to Spider-Man No Way Home. Wong says that he can't just erase everybody's memories of Abomination's escape because of how messy it can get. Obviously, this is a reference to the fact that Doctor Strange erased everybody's memories and had everyone forget Peter Parker. Despite this, he does agree to appear at the hearing and explain why it was that Abomination escaped. Now, back to the Dennis storyline, it turns out that he spent $175,000 on this Passat-driving Megan Thee Stallion impersonator, who at one point even shows up and impersonates Dennis to try and get the case dropped. Literally, none of this is funny or relevant to the plot, so at this point I'm kind of wondering why it got thrown in here in the first place. Back to the main story, at Emil Blonsky's hearing, Jen gets Blonsky to say that he's rehabilitated, that he's reformed, and he's planning on opening a meditation facility on some land that he owns. Wong appears at the last possible minute, and right when I felt like I might actually be invested in this show, they make us switch back to the stupid storyline with Dennis in the courtroom. We are witness to the hearing of the case between Dennis the sleazeball and Runa the shapeshifter. And we only get a brief few minutes as they decide that the case will in fact go to trial. Back at Emil Blonsky's hearing, it seems like Wong has really saved the day here. He explains not only did he break Blonsky out of prison against his will, but Blonsky also chose to go back and finish the rest of his sentence. Right when it seems like everybody is moved by this testimony, Emil decides to show everyone that he can control Abomination by transforming, and in turn horrifying everybody in the room. They don't exactly reach a decision, so to lick her wounds, Jen once again returns to Legal Ease, her bar of choice. Jen's coworker Pug, who's handling Dennis's case, shows up to complain about the guy. Jen's statement that Dennis is terminally deluded when it comes to his interactions with women leads to Pug asking her to come on as a character witness for the case. In the courtroom, the entire argument that's made is that Dennis is in fact stupid and chauvinistic enough to believe that, and I quote, he could pull Megan Thee Stallion. We're expected to believe that this is an actual lawyer in an actual court of law speaking to a judge, and he's just used the phrase pull Megan Thee Stallion. The writers really weren't kidding when they said they had no idea what they were doing when they tried to write a courtroom comedy. Naturally, we get a cameo from Megan Thee Stallion herself sitting in the courtroom. Why? I don't know. The case, however, is ruled in Dennis's favor. Back at the prison, the result of Blonsky's parole hearing are exactly what he wanted to hear. He is granted his parole, and that means that Jen has won her first superhuman law case. After a brief appearance on the news, we're witness to Jen being assaulted just outside her home by a gang of men who evidently have just robbed an Asgardian construction worker. Naturally, Jen dispatches these guys with ease, but it seems that they're part of a bigger plot because they do mention having to report back to a boss. The episode ends there, with maybe about 8 minutes of the show having anything to do with moving the plot along. Oh, but how could I forget the end credits scene? We're treated to a scene where Jen is having her new client, Megan Thee Stallion, sign some documents. I'm not exactly sure why Megan Thee Stallion is a client of Jen if Jen works in the superhuman law division and this is a music artist, but maybe that was just their excuse to get Megan and Jen to start dancing a little bit in the office together. This cute little dance sequence eventually devolves into both women twerking in the office with a gratuitous close-up shot of Jen's CGI rear end in her lawyerly gray slacks. To me, this entire end credits scene just seems like cheap shock value to stir headlines for Twitter, but when they reduce her to cheap gratuitous butt shots at the end of an episode, I just feel really disappointed in what it is that they're doing exactly with this character. 3 episodes in, and I feel like the series is a tremendous waste of time. I know that there's 6 left to go, but I feel like in 3, something should have happened, and so far, I don't feel invested. I'm watching it to review it, and because I really want to see what they do with Daredevil, I'm morbidly curious. As I mentioned previously, my rating for She-Hulk episode 3 is a very appropriate 3 out of 10. That's all from me. I've been Snarky J. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know your thoughts on episode 3 of She-Hulk Attorney at Law in the comments below.